What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Sunday night edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner alongside JP Acosta. As always, JP, I was traveling back from Tampa today. I was down in Tampa for my wife's grandpa's 90th birthday party. Great time. But traveling back, watching the slate from the airport, and flight kind of got delayed. So I'm finally getting on the flight, and it's like towards the end of the 4 p.m. slate of games. And in my head, I'm like, is it just me, or has this been kind of a particularly stinky slate of games? It's just like, I'm just like thinking, I'm going through the notes for the pod that we're doing. And I'm like, there's not a lot of games where I was like hyped to talk. And, that just like ended up having a lot of things that were good to talk about. And I put some numbers to it. And I think we may have just witnessed the worst slate of NFL football in modern NFL football history. So to put some numbers to it, 8 of the 12 games so far this week had a starting quarterback that wasn't their week 1 starter. And that doesn't even include the Saints, who went to their backup midway through that game. It featured only one score game. Of the 12 games so far, only one's been a 1-score game. I did a lot of digging. There's never been a week that had 0 1-score games. I'm not sure there's been a week that's only had 1 1-score game. There's 51% of games historically are 1-score games, end within 8 points. And there's only 1 out of the 12. The odds of that happening are 0.039%. The average margin of victory this week was 18.25. That's the 8th highest all time. And to top it off, we may never get to see Cam Skadbu play a down of football again after that gruesome injury. So it was bad all around. And I think this is the NFL. This is their karma for trying to shove National Tight End Day down our throats.
This was awful. This was an awful slate of football games, whether it be because of all the teams that are on buys, whether it be because of all the injuries to star players. I mean, the Falcons played like half of their roster in that game against Miami. Like, nobody was playing actual football. And all the blowouts, we saw like Joe Milton get like snaps in the Broncos game, 7 minutes with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Threw a great pass, which again is just the Joe Milton experience. But he got in with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We saw Tyler Shuck in a game that was still like 23-3. Like, it wasn't even the fact that these were blowouts. It was like convincing, like nobody had a shot at a comeback.
Yeah, there was, even this game that we just ended with, so we can start with right off the rip, Sunday Night Football game, Packers at Steelers. It was close 3/4 of the way through, but it wasn't close at the end. 5 minutes left in this game. No one had any inkling, any thought that the Steelers could make a comeback, especially with I was thinking this the whole fourth quarter. I'm like, the Steelers offense playing from behind is horrifying to watch. It's like watching one of those, it's like watching Vanderbilt try to come from behind against Georgia. It just doesn't feel right. It's just it's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to play with the lead,
Yeah, and this game was truly an example of the limitations of the Steelers offense, both combined with the offense that doesn't really have any limits in the Packers, especially when you look at what the Packers did to beat the Steelers defense. It was all quick game. It was all motion. It was all forcing them to tackle. And I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, or I think it might have been after the Jets game. The Steelers have so many veterans in that secondary, on that defense. They're the highest paid defense in the NFL. They are far too old and make far too much money to have as many coverage busts as they do. They have so much veteran experience to forget. They have too much veteran experience to forget about Tucker Kraft in the flat. They have too much veteran experience to not run with emotion. Like that just feels like day one stuff that isn't getting taught. And the Packers is just, for 2.5 quarters, the Packers tried to go with their old formula of running the ball really well and then throwing it downfield 30 yards, but that really wasn't working. And so I credit Matt LaFleur in the fourth quarter and in mid-third quarter, fourth quarter, to sort of adjusting to letting Jordan Love throw on early downs and just leaning on the quick game. And he was shredding the Steelers secondary, shredding their defense, and it really helped them open up that lead.
Yeah, 20 straight completions. That was my number from this game for Jordan Love. Broke Aaron Rodgers never record, but more than Aaron Rodgers ever had in his career. Tied Brett Favre for the most ever from a Packer. Also 138 yards after the catch for Tucker Kraft on National Tight End Day. All around, just like this is what I kind of had been waiting for from the Packers offense, was for them to just start, I don't want to say going away from the run, but that whole second half of this game, early downs, the pass was the run. They were letting their weapons on the outside become more of an extension of their running game than their actual running game. And I think, I think the addition of Christian Watson helped with that. Obviously, his speed back in that lineup, he made a couple of big plays himself. But I do just think that's the kind of weapons they have on the outside. Just the more you can get the ball and spread the field and hit every level of the defense as a passing offense, just the better this Packers offense will be.
And I think it's such an important part to have of the Packers offense because of how they are built. We've said before, they use their run game as the quick game. So if their run game isn't working, they constantly found themselves in the second quarter in second and longs and third and longs. And that's really when the Steelers turned up the pressure. And for the longest, it's been like the offensive line has still been nicked up by injuries. They weren't able to generate any push on the ground. And to mitigate the pressure off the edge, they just went with quick game. And I think it's a really smart addition. And I think Jordan Love has gotten better with communication within the quick game, that it makes it work. And of course, having Christian Watson back was huge. The big completion he had, I think, in the second half, where Jordan Love checked to that play. So he killed the play at the line of scrimmage and then pointed, I think he pointed something for Christian Watson, because he saw the Steelers were going to bring a blitz and play cover one behind it. And he just threw up kind of like a floater. And Juan Thornhill completely misjudged the ball. But it was still a really cool play by Jordan Love to check into that and go to a guy that he trusts. And I think that's the biggest thing that has really been missing within the offense. Like, sure, Matthew Golden is a great player to have, but that trust with Christian Watson is something that they've built up over a long time. And it's going to help make this offense so much more dynamic.
Watson, 4 catches on 4 targets, 85 yards. Love, 29 of 37, 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. The best the passing games looked all season, in my opinion. Now, it is Steelers defense. We came in saying bottom 10 EPA against the run, bottom 10 EPA against the pass. This is when it should look good. That's why the over just got smoked in this game. But this is, at least the second half of this game, is kind of what I was waiting for. 2 other notes before we get out of here. One, ruining such a classic jersey matchup with whatever the hell the Steelers were wearing. Steelers FC, those look like soccer jerseys. That was the best. I didn't take any time to research why they were wearing this, what this jersey is. Get it off my television. Harry, get that graphic down from the screen right now. And then the other one, I knew it was over for the Steelers when Rodgers didn't get the offsides. When Rodgers gets the offsides on a 3rd and 8, got it. It was Devontae Wyatt jumped into the neutral zone, got him. Didn't get the flag. You knew it wasn't going to be his day when he didn't get that. It had shades of, and I'm still salty about this, so I'm going to bring it up. 2014 NFC Championship game. Richard Sherman's interception early in that game. There was an offsides in the Seahawks. I believe it was Michael Bennett. Didn't get called. Like I said, I'm still salty about it. Should have gotten called back. Doesn't get enough credit. Didn't get talked about in the broadcast. That's why no one brings it up. He was offsides. All right.
I'm glad you got that off your chest. I'm so glad you got that off your chest. Watching the Steelers offense feels like watching an old artist that you used to like when you were a kid, and you're watching him now, like 20 years later, still trying to do the same things that he did when you were a kid. And it's like, man, I see what you're doing, but you don't got it. Like, it really does feel like watching the Nets and Kevin Garnett. Like, I hate to bring up like the washed meme, but it feels like Shaq on the Celtics.
Well, and Rodgers is doing his like slant flat thing where all he wants, like that's all he wants to do. And when the Packers offense was at its worst, like 2017 or 2018, towards the very end, 2022, that's what it just devolved into. Just like this, I can just quick game everything to death and just like put the ball in my hands. It's going to be okay. Well, it's like, it's not always how it works here. Like and obviously there were, they still did score 25 points. I actually don't think this was the offense's fault here for Pittsburgh, but it's still, they're going to have to win games like this, and they are not built to win games like this. All right, let's get off that one and on to the rest of the slate. Got to take a quick break. Coming up, we have our lone one-score game right after the break.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
We're going to start with Cowboys at Broncos. Broncos roll 44-24. They cover the 3.5 point spread, 50.5 points. The over hits there. As we said, the Cowboys are the over team in the NFL, and unsurprisingly, even against the defense and offense, I should say, like the Denver Broncos, they sky high the over. JP, what's your number from this one?
My number for this game is 5, because that's how many touchdowns by the 2024 and 2025 offensive skill position draft class that the Broncos had in this game. This is what you do to bad defenses. This is what the Broncos should be. And I think it was really cool seeing sort of the young guys get involved with this offense. RJ Harvey had 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. You got Troy Franklin involved downfield. The second touchdown he had was a beautiful throw by Bo Nix. All cleats in the ground, wasn't trying to jump past a go ball. It looked really good. It honestly looked kind of like routes on air, but we're going to get to that part later. But Pat Bryant catches a touchdown pass. You're getting contributions on the ground from Garrett Bowles, who's having an all-pro year. The run game was popping off. This is what the Broncos offense looks like when their run game is going. When everything is clicking through the ground, when they're able to force teams to account for the play action and some of the stuff Bo Nix can do in drop back scenarios, when the run game is going, it makes it really hard to defend them because Sean Payton can just dial it up. RJ Harvey's receiving touchdown was super cool because they motion him out like he's about to be in fast motion, but stops like in between the left tackle and the slot receiver to see if it's man or zone tell. Maris Leofau follows him, so you get man coverage, and then you force Leofau to run through all the traffic to get back to RJ Harvey on the backside of the play. He's wide open and walks into the end zone. It's those kind of things I think Sean Payton is really good at, and I think that's what's going to help like raise the floor for this Broncos offense. I'm not sure how high their ceiling is, but when you play a defense as bad as the Cowboys, this is what should happen.
Yes, I had a tweet, 2 weeks ago, 13 days ago, and I'll read it off. I said, I know we can't judge a draft class after 6 weeks, but the Broncos' top 3 picks all being backups looks especially concerning given they were a 5th-year cornerback, 6th-year running back, and 4th-year wide receiver. I'm not going to delete it, but I am just waiting for that tweet to get quote tweeted all week because that 5th-year cornerback had an interception in Jahdae Barron. That 6th-year running back had, 3 touchdowns? And then that 4th-year wide receiver had also a touchdown, his first of his career, and he did the mile-high salute. So I take back everything I said, I guess. Draft class is sweet, apparently. And no, it's just they played the Cowboys is what it was. We can be honest here. They played the Cowboys. This looks like an all-time bad defense. Like, I'm looking around this roster and just watching the tape, just saying, who of these players is an actual good player? You know, who is a player that would start on, just go the other side. Who would start on the Broncos from this roster? And I'm not sure there is anyone, it is a horrible defense that, unfortunately, like you said, routes on air, they're going to make a lot of offenses look real good. And so good kudos to the Broncos that this is a game like that. You could still do this to the bad defenses. That's encouraging and that's a start, but I'm going to believe it when I see it, when it comes against, a real competitor, shall we say, defensively.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the Broncos offense is back by any means, because again, the Cowboys linebacker group without Marvin Overshawn is one of the worst linebacker units in the sport. Like, there so many times on toss plays, on pin pull, Kenneth Murray is just out of the play, either because he's late to the ball or he's overrunning the entire play. And because you didn't have Trayvon Diggs in this game, because you lost both your starting safeties, you lost Traquise Bridges, I believe, in the middle of this game. who else was going to play? Like it looked like routes on air. The first Bo Nix touchdown pass to Troy Franklin. It was a nice scissor concept, but he's wide open. Like Bo Nix double clutched that pass and didn't matter because there was nobody within 15 yards of Troy Franklin. So I'm reserving judgment on how good the Broncos offense is, but I do think they needed this to get their young guys involved, to get them within the flow of the offense. But
Yes.
I think it was a really impressive game in just attacking weak points of the Cowboys defense. And then the Broncos defense, they turned up the heat on Dak Prescott in a way that I don't think he's had that happen to him this season because of how good the run game has been, because of how good they've been on play action. They haven't really been able to face defenses that have really attacked where they're weak, which is the Cowboys' pass protection doesn't deal with speed very well.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos' edges, Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito, just dusted Terrence Steele and Tyler Guyton for the entire game. Like it wasn't fair. There was every time it was a straight drop back scenario, instead of having like 3 seconds to throw the ball, Dak Prescott had like maybe 1.5 because not only do they get off the ball quick, but they finish fast and they're funneling plays to their interior defensive line. They rush so well together that it makes it really hard to beat them up front.
Yeah, Dak goes 19 of 31, 188 yards, 2 picks. Worst stat line from him all season long. That was ugly from the Cowboys offense. But again, Broncos will do that to you. Broncos, the best defense in the NFL, you think? Would you say?
I think it's a dogfight between the Broncos and the Seahawks.
Okay.
I want to see the Seahawks defense when they get everybody healthy, but at their best, the Broncos can just poke holes in you. And they didn't. Patrick Surtain missed the rest of this game with a shoulder injury, which, if it's serious, could really change the outlook of this season for that defense. But I actually kind of think Riley Moss, I think he got dunked on a little bit with the Joe Milton touchdown pass, which is unfortunate, but he didn't give up a lot of big plays. He didn't give up a lot of explosives. Sure, there were a couple penalties in there, but some of them were kind of ticky-tack. Yeah, well, he gets hosed on a lot of penalties, which sucks for him. But I do think he didn't play that bad in this game, especially because they were going after him the entire game. So I think if Surtain misses time, you're in a little bit of trouble. But they found a way around it against an offense that kind of felt like they should be able to poke holes in this defense, given their personnel.
Yeah, I do have to give kudos. Bo Nix had a few 6 throws. You mentioned the Pat Bryant one, the one to Cortland Sutton on the go ball, just beating the safety there. And then the post to Sutton that was like one of the worst drops I've ever seen Cortland Sutton have. Just like hit him in the chest. Great throw. Should have been a touchdown. But we'll see if it continues. Good momentum going forward. All right, New York Jets at Cincinnati Bengals. Your lone one-score game, and boy, was it a good one. Jets win on the road, 39-38. Obviously, the overhits there. It was 43.5. Bengals were 6.5-point favorites here. But my number, and it's an interesting one because it's a record that's held for 17 years, fell in this game. Jamar Chase with, I believe it was 19 targets in this game. He now has 42 targets over the past 2 weeks, the most since it became a stat in 1991. Brandon Marshall, remember the record holder for receptions in a game? He tied it. Chris Chambers said it in 05. 38 was the previous record. So he broke it by 4. And in the process, also broke the record for a 3-game stretch with 54 because he had 12 the week before that. So since Joe Flacco's gotten to town, Jamar Chase is on a whirlwind of a pace through 3 weeks here.
This is a masterclass in keeping your best players happy. Yeah. This is a Bengals masterclass in buddy ball. That's all you gotta do. I think they told Joe Flacco when he first got there, like, look, the playbook is real simple. Throw it to 1 or throw it to 5. Nothing else matters. All we're trying to do is keep them happy, keep their targets up. And in this game, it felt like neither team could get a stop. So going to Jamar Chase, especially with Sauce Gardner out, was a real smart game plan. But it just was undermined by the fact that the Bengals couldn't stop a soul.
Dude, the Bengals defense. horrendous in this one. Run defense specifically. I mean, there were plays where a whole side of the defensive line was like in the linebackers' laps. I don't know what it just, that's the state of the Bengals defensive line. And I thought the Jets offensive line had, their best week since week one. Obviously not breaking any ground there. They've been up and down, very rough in certain weeks, but 39 points. It was fueled by guys like Armand Membu, Olu Fashanu. Neither allowed a pressure in this game. It was Justin Fields' probably best performance of the season. The 2-point conversion he had, which kudos to Aaron Glenn. They went for 2 to make it a 8-score game initially, it was 8-score game initially. Then the Bengals scored to go ahead, went for 2 again in a 14-point game. So down 14, score a touchdown, went for 2. That's why they end up winning in regulation. That is obviously the analytics preferred and just like what you should realistically do in those situations. A lot of coaches don't. Jets did and win the game because of it.
The Jets had 254 rushing yards.
That 502 yards of total offense.
Like, Jesus. Like, that's insane. Of course, the Jets are a team that we knew were going to try and run the ball really well this season, try and mitigate whatever they lacked as a passing offense. But the Bengals just are one of the worst tackling teams. This week had some really awful tackling, with the Steelers doing whatever they just did on Sunday night and the Bengals doing whatever they did earlier today. This is some awful tackling. They missed 6 tackles on Breece Hall by himself. And it felt like that watching the game. It felt like they were just falling off of him. So I don't know how you fix not being able to tackle. Like, that feels like a core requirement. Like, you can scheme up, you can add and subtract, you can run all the coolest coverages as possible. But if you can't tackle, you're not going to win a lot of games. And it's just, what else can we say about the Bengals defense that hasn't already been said?
That's, I think, the saddest thing, if you're looking at this game and you're a Bengals fan, is that it's not like you're the Cowboys and it's Kwesi Bridges out there and you're like, yeah, we're going to upgrade that guy. It's like the guys who are playing stinky are guys who are like top 100 picks. There's no, we'll draft one next year. You just drafted this guy. These were the guys. These are all either somewhat highly paid free agents or guys you just probably drafted fairly highly that are the ones that are complete non-factors. That's the scary thing, because that means that it's like a whole nother overhaul that needs incoming if none of these draft picks work out. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like a lot of the guys you've taken. We've talked about this a bunch, how they've kind of loaded up on defense ever since the Super Bowl appearance, knowing that that's where it's going to have to, that side of the ball has to get better, and that you had a lot of highly paid free agents that were going to walk. And none of them panned out. Name one that's like a high impact player for you. You have DJ Turner right now. You have a cover corner is the one guy that's worked out. And that just happened. That just happened this year. So I'm worried about the state of the Bengals defense, because it's at this point, it's like it's not happening over one offseason. It's going to be like a 3 or 4 year plan now.
Can we talk about the Breece Hall touchdown pass? Because that was kind of sick.
Yes.
It was great because Breece Hall, everything in Breece Hall's body was telling him not to throw that ball. Like, he pump faked it and then kept running towards the sideline. And I knew he wanted to throw the ball away. I knew he really wanted to. But then he was like, you know what? We're 0-7. Let's just try it. And Mason Taylor made a heck of a play. He mossed the dude. So it was a great play, but I just want to shout out Breece Hall for kind of throwing caution to the wind on his touchdown pass.
Nothing makes me happier than on plays like that, the running back, wide receiver pass, where it doesn't work. And like, honestly, if you would have thrown it initially, there may have been, like, he had to obviously put it at a good spot, but it wasn't going to get picked. It wasn't like completely shut down. By the time he did throw it, it was completely shut down. There was not actually a window. It was going to take a really nice throw or, an insane play by Mason Taylor, which kudos to Mason Taylor. So I love that, like, the guy said, I don't get to do this often. Why would I dirt one? Why would I just throw one away, I could be a hero. And well, Breece Hall, you're a hero.
Yeah, like why are we dirting passes? It's go big or go home. You're never gonna get this chance to throw a pass again. Honestly, I kind of wonder, was he trying to draw pass interference? Because that would have been even funnier. Like it was an underthrown pass.
Underthrow.
Was he trying to? That would have been incredible. I wonder, do you teach running backs and receivers, like, if it's not wide open, underthrow it. You'll get pass interference.
Dude, the only wide receiver that you could sell me that is accurate enough to intentionally underthrow a pass would be Mohamed Sanu, the GOAT of throwing at non-quarterback. That's the only one. Everyone else I don't trust to throw that well. All right, let's get off this Bengals game because there was a combined 3 wins between these teams going in, and now there's a 4th. Congrats to the Jets on their first win. Bears at Ravens. A game with some interesting storylines here because obviously the Ravens win 30-16. They were 6.5-point favorites, 49.5 points is the over-under. The under hits. But there was this odd storyline because on Friday, Lamar Jackson was listed as a full participant by the Baltimore Ravens after being limited all week with a hamstring injury. With the way the NFL's injury designation goes, full participant for a starter, a guy who was starting games for you prior to his injury, means that he is now fully healthy and was not limited in any way, shape, or form. But that was not the case. He ran the scout team offense in practice. Yes, he participated in full in the practice in terms of running the scout team, but was not back to the starting team reps, which is what would qualify as a full participant per NFL rules. And with all the betting stuff that was going down this week in the NBA, people are upset. Now, the funny thing is, in retrospect, it actually didn't matter. Like if you were betting against, like you would think that if you saw the news that Lamar Jackson's full participant, he's playing, that would make you more likely to bet on the Ravens, less likely to bet on the Bears. So it ended up working out for those people. But you also would be more likely to bet on the over. Obviously, the over doesn't hit in this, but something will happen from this more likely than not. The NFL has too much at stake. I expect some sort of punishment to come down. And I'm guessing it's going to be fairly harsh, more harsh than I think most people would expect for something as innocuous as this, just because they're under such a microscope now after all the stuff that's going down in the NBA. You cannot be linked to any sort of insider info stuff going on right now.
It's just really weird what happened this entire week. And John Harbaugh, I think, said after the game, like, I didn't know, like, that was a rule. I know that was a thing that we could be punished for. So it feels like something here is just off. And the entire game, when you watch it, it felt like this should be a game where Lamar plays, but obviously they didn't need him. But, like, it's just, I wonder what the fallout is going to be from this game, especially because of the entire build up, the entire lead up. Like, oh, Lamar's playing scout team. Like, oh, he's saying like his hamstring is getting a little better. And then Saturday, I think it's announced that he's not going to play. Like, that feels really odd.
Weird. Yes. Very weird stuff going on. What was your number from this one, JP?
My numbers, I picked numbers for this game. I was kind of cheating here. So my numbers are 42% and 51%. 42% is the Bears' success rate on early downs versus the Ravens' defense. 51% is the Ravens' success rate against the Bears' defense on early downs in this game. What are the Chicago Bears this year? It just feels like a wildly inconsistent team, a wildly inconsistent offense that I think was sort of played itself out today, where some of the inconsistencies in the passing game, I think there are a lot of times where Ben Johnson didn't trust Theo Benedette in passing and just straight drop back situations because he was getting his butt kicked by Mike Green for most of the game. And you could tell that the Ravens defense got healthy and got all their guys back because Humphrey playing, Kyle Hamilton was in the box a lot more, which kind of shut down a lot of their run game stuff. Roquan Smith was healthy. All their impact guys came back, and it felt like the Bears kind of just turtled a little bit because they couldn't run the football. And I think that was an underrated point going into this game because of how bad the Ravens were at defending the run. But according to NFL Pro, they were the worst team in in the league in terms of run defense between the tackles. On runs outside of the tackles, they were actually about league average. And that's what the Bears have been doing to get traction in the run game, was running outside of the tackles. So you're running directly into the strength of the Ravens defense this year. And it kind of just bore itself out there. And I call into question, one, why did you give Ryan Poles that extension? Because what did you see from this team that made you think that he is good at acquiring talent? The Bears had 3 pressures total in this game against Snoop Huntley and a Ravens offensive line that has been struggling this season. They had 3 pressures. Snoop Huntley had all day to throw the ball. Derrick Henry had his best game since Lamar went out. He had over 100 yards. Keaton Mitchell had a really fun game as a runner. But most of the game was just Snoop Huntley just had all the time in the world to throw. He had all the time in the world to scramble. And it just feels like this felt like a last year Bears game where the defense was not good enough, and it always forced Caleb Williams to play from behind and forced this Bears offense to play catch up. And this offense is just not ready yet for those moments.
Yeah, the defense is the issue here for this Bears team. Obviously, the offense, I think we just know where Caleb's at in his developmental curve. You'll get inconsistency. You're hoping that gets better as the season wears on, as his career goes on. You know what's going to happen, but you can expect some high highs in the process. But the defense giving up 30 to Snoop Huntley is just like inexcusable. And yeah, some of that was aided by a Caleb Williams pick in his own territory, but like they should not have moved the ball on you like at all, when Tyler Huntley is out there. But with Caleb, I am still worried about the weird plays, like the plays that show almost a lack of understanding, situational understanding, and just like football awareness. He had a sequence before the half where it's a scramble. It's in the 2-minute drill. I believe there was 49 seconds left. They had a couple timeouts. He scrambles 22 yards, big gain. He's by the sideline. He slides. He could have easily gotten out of bounds if he just headed. So they have to use their second timeout. So they get to like midway into, I think you're at the 39 in Ravens territory, 2-minute sort of drive. You have to use timeout there. If you would have gone out of bounds, you still would have had 2 more with 39 seconds left. That's like prime touchdown opportunity there, as opposed to 1 timeout, probably more likely you're going to get a field goal. 2 plays later, he has all day in the pocket, holds on to it. Pressure comes, gets called for a grounding, takes them out of basically field goal territory. They get no points before the half. And just plays like that are just, they talk about, Troy Aikman, I think, calls it all the time, like Cardinal sin. You can't take a sack here. He always is calling it out. Like when you are in field goal range and it's end of half scenarios or a third down, you just can't take those negative plays. And seemingly Caleb does not have that internal clock, that internal awareness yet, just ingrained into him in those situations.
I think I said it earlier this year, but he's a little Kyler-ish. And I don't mean that
we've said it too much this year. I feel
he's like big Kyler Murray. Yeah. And it could be a good thing when it comes to some of the volatility outside the pocket, some of the explosive plays that he can create. But it also can be a drawback because I don't think it's the fact that Caleb Williams is turning down plays. I think Caleb Williams actually has grown a little bit when it comes to attacking and finding open voids. It's just he hasn't been very accurate this year. And then with playing Benedette at left tackle instead of Braxton Jones, you're banking on run blocking being a lot better instead of pass protection. And you can tell Ben Johnson was not calling this game like he had reliable pass protection at left tackle. So I think figuring out that left tackle spot will really help them out going forward. But this Bears team is the most confusing team in the NFL because you can see the floor, but I feel like their ceiling this year is incredibly limited because of the defense and because of the inconsistencies of the offense. But you also have a lot of talent in the skill position group where, like, if they catch fire, if you can get a good game or two from those skill position guys, if you get a good game from Caleb Williams, we'll see what happens down the line.
Ravens save their season here with the win, move to 2-5. I think they would have been toast at 1-6. I just, as much as we don't think highly of the rest of the AFC North, 1-6 is just an insane hill to climb. So 2-5, still doable. You got the 3-5 Bengals ahead of them. You have the 4-3 Steelers ahead of them. We'll see how the AFC North shakes out. Let's get to 49ers at Texans. Texans win going away 26-15. Cover is 1.5-point favorites. The under hits there, albeit barely. It was 41.5. My number from this one, 10. That is the amount of pressure dropbacks from CJ Stroud on 42 dropbacks, mind you. His second fewest this season, under a 25% pressure rate. And lo and behold, 49ers offense looks good. He goes 30 of 39, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns with a pick. And that's without number 1 wide receiver. Why am I blanking on his name in this game? Nico Collins. So it was the most encouraging Houston Texans game. I know they had that Ravens laugher, but like this had to be the most encouraging Texans offensive performance, in my opinion, that we've seen all season long.
I agree. And I made a post where it's like it took playing the 49ers third string defensive line, but this was encouraging for the Texans. I think what they did with Nico Collins out was they added an extra offensive lineman onto the field to force teams to respect, or at least think about respecting, their run game. And I think they were able to make some traction on the ground in this game that really helped sort of build those explosives in for the passing offense. The big throw to Jalen Noel came with a 6 offensive linemen on the field. I think that's going to be something that they can lean into moving forward, because you struggle so much in pass protection. Add as many offensive lineman bodies onto the field as possible, because you can trust these guys downfield. You can trust Jalen Noel. You can trust Nico Collins when he gets back. Just go as big as possible and let them rip downfield. It felt like what the Texans ran in CJ Stroud's first year that they've been trying to get back to, but the offensive line hasn't been up to par. So it felt good to watch this offense sort of find what works for them in this game. But this felt like a game where all the injuries really caught up with the 49ers, considering just how much of I wouldn't say they were on a heater, but they went on a little mini run there with everybody being hurt. And now you're starting to realize that, man, this offense, this defense doesn't really have a lot of bodies left. Yeah,
the 49ers, they've been playing with house money. They've been sneaking by, and this has kind of felt like the game where it's like, oh wait, these aren't good players. Oh wait, these aren't this isn't still a good team. I don't know how they've been doing it, but it's still a team that's very flawed with all the injuries that they've suffered. I mean, you saw the offense I know the final score says 11-point game. This was not an 11-point game. The Texans kicked the 49ers ass. 470. They outgained them by 250 yards, over doubled the 49ers yardage, 223 total yards for the 49ers in this game. They could not move the ball whatsoever. Christian McCaffrey, only 8 carries, his fewest ever in a fully healthy game since he came over to the San Francisco 49ers. They really, and only 25 yards on those 8 carries. They could not run the ball. They could not pass the ball. Texans defense is a house. That's why we're saying we're encouraged, is because you just needed a sign of life. It's 26 points. It ain't even anything special, but it's 26 points. If they can just get to that 20 marker, they'll win more games than they lose, in my opinion.
For the 49ers, there's no reason why George Kittle should have less targets than Juwan Jennings in any game. There's no reason why George Kittle should only have 5 targets in a game, considering the state of the 49ers passing offense and the lack of talent they have on the outside right now. I don't see why you don't build the boat out of him as a receiver.
Do you just repurpose him to he's now a wide receiver, and you're doing 13 personnel out there?
You have to. Yeah. Your 2 best receivers right now are Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. Just put Juszczyk, put an extra tight end on the field or something. Go as big as possible and force linebackers to defend them. It makes it's so confusing, how Kyle Shanahan can be one of the best schemers in football, but also can't find ways to get George Kittle the ball. Like, it's confusing.
He loves. I think he loves him too much as a run blocker. He loves
Yeah.
him too much as a run blocker to use him as a receiver, and that's why maybe he can't stay healthy. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. After that, we're gonna get to the rest of this Week 8 slate. Right after this.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Browns at Pats. Pats will roll 32-13, cover the 7-point spread, 40.5 points. The over hits there. What's your number from this game?
My number is 5 because that's how many sacks Myles Garrett had in this game, which was the most tungsten arm O'Doyle game of all time. The Patriots could not block Myles Garrett, and it ultimately did not matter. Like, they were just like, okay, we can't block him, but on the occasions that we do, we'll just throw the ball for 50 yards and throw a touchdown. Drake May had another beautiful pass downfield to Kayshon Boutte. He is not only like been incredible this year, I would argue he has been one of the most valuable players in the NFL. When we're talking about MVP rankings, we have to include Drake May in that discussion. But I actually thought Josh McDaniels did some pretty cool stuff to use some misdirection in the run game to slow down this defense. I thought that putting the ball in Drake May's hands, he still had a 55.8% success rate despite taking 5 sacks, which is incredible. Like, he was playing phenomenally. You got some great players from Mac Hollins, and ultimately, like, as good as the Browns defense is, if they're going to be on the field all the time, they're going to give up some points. With the way that they play man coverage, the way that they play defense, you're going to get burned eventually.
Yeah, their offense is abysmal, and I think the biggest thing that you just saw the difference in this game is they just they can't open it up. There's no Dylan Gabriel has one deep completion all season long. He was 0 for 2 in this game, and that's like, you watch the Patriots offense, and with May, it's not like they have a ton of chances, but they capitalize when they do. May goes 4 or 5. We talked about he was 12 for his last 13. Goes 4 or 5 on deep targets in this one, 135 yards, a touchdown. He's just playing just lights out football. Also has 4 scrambles for 53 yards in this. Just about as complete a quarterbacking that, shoot, I mean, since week 1, I don't know if anyone has played as consistently good football as Drake May has the quarterback position. Just week in and week out, the guy shows up.
And even in the Steelers loss, Drake May played awesome in that game. They just fumbled 5 times, which, again, we're going to look back and be like, that was one of the funniest games of the year, because look at where the Steelers are now and look at where the Patriots are. Like, we're having a completely different conversation about the 7-1 Patriots if Ramondre Stevenson doesn't fumble 3 times. So the fact that Drake May has gotten this good this fast is kind of incredible. Like, I think we all kind of hoped that he would become very good, but nobody really expected to jump to elite status after one off season. It's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, I feel like we've had a few years now where we've predicted year 2 leaps. It's like, oh, he's going to year 2 leap, Mahomes year 2 leap, Lamar year 2 leap. Since then, everyone's predicted the year 2 leap, and more often than not hasn't really lived up to sort of the hype posts. I guess maybe like Joe Burrow, the last one to really have it. Yeah, Drake May's made a year 2 leap. The guy is firmly in not only, in the echelon of franchise quarterback. Those days are past. He's in that. It's like he's in MVP sort of conversations at this point in time, because they're 6-2. They're atop the AFC East. And right now, I think they'd be the 2 seed in the AFC, which is pretty insane to say for a team that was obviously drafting top 5 a year ago. But one last point about Myles Garrett. I think 3 of his 5 sacks came after chips, which just doesn't happen.
He's the best chip destroyer in the NFL, because I think Kyle said it on one of our Tuesday shows. He uses the momentum from the chip to just bounce himself inside. And if you try and chip him outside, he's just going to beat the tackle to the corner, which is what he did on one of the sacks where I think it was Hunter Henry tried to chip him or make him go wide, and he just dipped around Hunter Henry and then dipped around Will Campbell like it was a drill. He did it like he was doing it against air. And it's just, he is the best defensive player on the planet who is also like given the Sisyphus rock of having to push up an offense where Dylan Gabriel throws two of the worst interceptions you'll see, and an intentional grounding that's even worse than all of those interceptions. So I feel kind of bad for him.
Funny, like in his trade letter that he leaked, he mentioned wanting to win. And you just got to be like, if you really wanted to win,
I need to know what plan they sold him on.
You wouldn't have to take it. Like, he had to know. Don't ever make Myles Garrett your GM, because if he thought this was the plan to win, he could be sold on a lot of things. All right.
I need to know what plan they sold him in the offseason. We're like, yeah, we got a plan. We're going to build this around you. We're going to build a successful offense. I need to know what actually was in that plan, because I don't think this was it.
The plan was $40 million a year, and his agent wrote the letter, I'm guessing. No. All right, let's get to Giants at Eagles on a sad note. Eagles roll 38-20. I'm going to say roll a lot today, apparently. 7.5 points was the spread there. Eagles cover. 43.5 points was the over-under. The over hits. My number, 276.
Whew.
That's the rushing yards from the Philadelphia Eagles. In their 5 previous games, they had not gone over 100. In 2024, they went over 100 in every single game that Jalen Hurts started. Obviously, I say that because they didn't go over 100 week 18 when Tanner McKee started. But this was a rushing offense that we were waiting for this. Just waiting, it seemed like. It's like, when is that game going to come? And you just saw it super early on this game, because Saquon breaks off a 60-yarder. It's like, okay, he hadn't done that all season long. Where did that come from? And then it was just pretty much anything they wanted, they got on the ground in this game.
I thought it was really interesting what happened with the Eagles finding success on the ground. We talked about it earlier with a lot of teams are just adding a 6th offensive lineman. That's what the Eagles did to find success. If you can't block them with 5, because what 8 teams ended up doing was they would put 6 defensive linemen at the line of scrimmage. They run the 6-1 fronts to force the Eagles into throwing the football. The Eagles just put a 6 offensive lineman on the field, and it was like basically getting a hat on a hat. I actually think Jordan Mailata talked about it after the game. He said the big formations with Fred Johnson coming into the game, it's a huge help running the football, because it basically puts everybody in a one-on-one block. And because of how explosive the Eagles can be under center play action out of big personnel, you still can't spin a safety into the box, because they can just throw it over your head to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I hope that this is the schematic like light bulb for Kevin Patullo. We're like, oh, we can do this under center stuff and run the football well if we just add another offensive lineman on the field. That's sort of what the Bills did last year with Alec Anderson. Just add another offensive lineman on the field. The duo touchdown run Saquon had was 6 offensive linemen. Tank Bigsby was eating with 6 offensive linemen on the field. This sort of feels like what they should be majoring in this year.
Yeah, and the Eagles had tried to force, Grant Calcaterra in the box when there's no reason to put a guy who cannot block tight to a formation. If a guy cannot block, he is going to blow up your run plays. Like you want, even if you're going to pass out of those formations, you still would rather have that 6 offensive linemen, because then you're getting more time to go to the guys that you actually want to pass to, and not Grant Calcaterra. No shade to Grant Calcaterra. It's just like, that's the way of the world. There's not enough tight ends that move the needle in the passing game to get 2 guys on the field that are dynamic. That's not what the Eagles have. This isn't like a Harold Fannin, David Njoku situation, or Isaiah Likely situation in Baltimore, where that second guy is like still a weapon. It's like, no, it's just kind of a second guy you're throwing out there. So I love the move, and obviously it paid off big dividends in this game. And not only in the running game, but they passed the ball extremely well. Jalen Hurts goes 15-20, 179 yards, 4 touchdowns. They didn't even have A.J. Brown in this game, which I had to laugh because Jahan Dotson like mossed a Giants corner, like literally went over the top of him in a way that no shade at AJ Brown. He's done a lot in his career, but he really hasn't done it much this year, where he's really just sunned someone at the catch point. But Jahan Dotson does, taking over AJ Brown this one.
It's so funny watching Jahan Dotson go up and get that ball because you let Jahan Dotson moss you, man. That's tough. That is a
Who was
tough
it though?
look.
It was like their fifth string. It was like Corey Black. I think it was like their sixth string corner for the Giants. So, but still, very tough for him. This Eagles team, though, this is what everyone was kind of afraid of. Let's say like this, awakening the giant, because the running game, once it gets going, and now Saquon goes out in the third quarter with a groin injury, reportedly could have came back if needed be, didn't obviously need him because Tank Bigsby goes for 104 yards on 9 carries himself, 78 of those after contact, and he looks like a straight up dude behind this offensive line. So really the Giants had no answers for this running game, and if that's back, again, the Eagles are the team to beat. If they have that, because again, they didn't have that the past 5 games for a vast majority of this season. The running game was a unmitigated mess. But if they have it back, they are still the team to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it, like, as soon as the Eagles find out what's going on with their run game, they're still going to be a really good team. It was just when they found out what was going on with the run game. And hopefully, like I said, Kevin Patullo can figure out how to build off the 6 offensive line stuff, because that's working for them. Keep doing it, because something that Patullo and the Eagles haven't done this season is they've seen what works and then they go away from it moving forward. Just keep doing it.
Let's look to the Giants real quick before we move on. I thought 2 plays really just took the air out of the ball for them. One was the sneak that got taken away from Jalen Hurts, but didn't get taken away from Jalen Hurts. So I was actually watching, obviously, at a restaurant at the airport. I didn't hear the audio. What was the explanation for that play?
So they said Jalen Hurts' forward progress was stopped.
Suspect.
And
I think that's just
it's real suspect, because it's the way that the tush push is officiated. How do you tell when his forward progress is stopped? Because it's not like you're going across the goal line where like the forward progress is stopped once you cross the end zone. But when does his forward progress stop? He never stopped moving, but they whistled him dead early before Thibodeau ripped the ball out, even though Hurts was still moving forward. So that it's just that kind of play, which makes me feel like they're going to end up banning the tush push this offseason, not because it's a competitive advantage. It's because they can't officiate it.
You just can't see in there to really know what the heck's going on, which I do agree. I mean, that was poorly officiated, in my opinion. And then the other one was obviously the Cam Scadaboo injury, which I used to be able to watch like injuries, gruesome stuff like this. I feel like in my old age, I've gotten really soft, not just in this manner, but like watching injuries as well, where it's just like, I can't rewatch stuff like this. And it would look like from the one time I saw it, it looked particularly bad, even compared to other obviously dislocated ankles that I've seen. And they apparently performed surgery immediately on him in Philadelphia. So hoping it's not career threatening, but like, damn, dude, that stinks. Because even in this game, the first touchdown was him running a pretty sick wheel route. And
he crossed up the edge.
Inside move. Yeah. That got them on the board, and that connection between him and Jackson Dart, them both being rookies, it was like something to really hang your hat on, even if you knew this wasn't going to be your season as a Giants fan. It was fun and exciting. And Dart, I thought still played pretty well in this game. You know, obviously he has some negative plays, but like has some sick plays as well. So unfortunately, just kind of took the wind out of their sails, in my opinion.
Yeah, it felt really bad just watching the replay and then watching the entire Giants team sort of rally around him. Like you could tell, like Jackson Dart is the quarterback. Cam Scadaboo is like the leader, the emotional heartbeat of that team. Like they run and they play with the energy that Scadaboo brings. So it's tough, especially for a young offense still trying to find its way. Like that's a real big blow to that.
All right, let's move on to Titans at Colts. Colts win 38-14. They cover 14.5 point spread. 46.5 points was the over under there. That hits the over. What's your number from this one?
My number is 12.8. That's how many yards per carry Jonathan Taylor had in this game. It was absurd. Like, it's truly, he's not going to win MVP. And I understand that he's not going to win MVP. But we can make a case for Jonathan Taylor to win MVP because of his value to this offense and what he brings with his consistency and the explosiveness. And with the way Jonathan Taylor is playing, very few running backs have been on the same tear that Jonathan Taylor has been on recently. He's the 12th player in NFL history with 4 separate 3-touchdown games in one season. And the only other guys that really did it, Marshall Falk in 2000, Daniel Thomason 2006, Sean Alexander 2005. All 3 of those guys did win MVPs. Like, I'm not saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jonathan Taylor wins MVP because he is so explosive. The long touchdown run where he tiptoes the sideline was sick. It was amazing. And you can tell that this Colts offense is firing on all cylinders because everything worked in this game. The Michael Pittman Jr. catch should not have worked. Nothing about that should have worked. And he had a crazier catch before that where the ball was tipped like 6 feet in the air and he just went up and got it. First down. Like, everything is working right for this Colts offense. And look, man, they're 7-1 and they got a date with the Steelers next. Like, who knows how far this can go?
Colts are averaging 33.75 points per game. That is their most through 8 games in the modern NFL era. More than any Manning or Luck team average. I feel like we just talked about the Giants. What Saquon did to them last year and what Daniel Jones is doing to them this year should be like criminal. You got to feel for Giants fans. I mean, just you have a guy turn into one of the best running back seasons of all time. And Daniel Jones just legitimately keeps playing. Not only, the team around him is great. And he has, like you said, MVP caliber running back behind him who's on pace to scratch LT's single season touchdown record. LT had 31. He's on pace for 30 right now. Jonathan Taylor is. So in that mix, in that realm of like high-end all-time season. But Daniel Jones is still, when opportunities are there, when he has to make throws, he is still making throws left and right that he just didn't with the Giants. Even this week at Alec Pierce, deep ball, that was money. That was exactly where it had to be. And it seemingly never turned in. If he turned in a game like this with the Giants, the next week you knew you were getting like a dud from Daniel Jones. But he's turning in games like this on a weekly basis. And the Colts, if you're not a believer at this point, I'm not sure what else they need to do to convince you.
They've gotten, and this game was a really great example of them getting contributions from all their critical skill position players. You had Jonathan Taylor doing what Jonathan Taylor does, the Michael Pittman Jr. touchdown catch, and then just the toughness he brings over the middle of the field. You had the Alec Pierce deep ball. Josh Downs scored a touchdown in this game, and he was just the separator that we know he is on third downs and the way they get him third down touches. Tyler Warren had a lot of fun plays in this game. You had Quentin Nelson playing amazing. Tanner Bortolini's playing really well. All the stars and all like the core players of this offense each have like their own role in making the offense go. And this is what we mean when like the whole everybody eats thing has sort of gotten run into the ground with the Bills sort of saying everybody eats and then nobody actually being good for them in the passing game. And then the Chiefs have started to use it now. But the Colts are the true everybody eats offense because everybody shines in their own role. It's like watching a really cool band where everybody has a solo. Everybody has their own moments and it creates really good music.
Yeah, because if Josh Downs were elsewhere, he could be a 1,200-yard wide receiver, right? And was really getting featured in a slot role. If like Alec Pierce was like a primary deep threat for someone who's getting 7 to 8 targets a game, he could go over 1,000 easily. But like they may not have a 1,000-yard receiver on this team, but it might not matter because they're going to have like 4 guys who are going to have between 800 to 1,000 yards, and that's a lot harder to game plan for if you're an opposing defense. You don't you don't know where they're going next. And the Colts, they are just a house right now. And for the Titans, they are just not a team built to win NFL football games, especially when you're down Calvin Ridley, you're down Jeffrey Simmons, you're down with Jerry Sneed. It's just that was never going to end well for the Tennessee Titans.
You just need to get out of this season hoping Cam Ward isn't broken. And he had some cool plays, some cool moments in this game. But he continues to take hits, and he continues to – I actually thought this was one of his better games when it comes to managing pressure, or at least trying. But you can tell that some of the hits are starting to take a little bit of a toll on him. And now things are starting to get a little chippy with did you see that he wanted to go for it, and Mike McCoy didn't? So he took him off the field and he punted, and then Jonathan Taylor runs for 77 yards.
Did he give him a ball don't lie to his own head coach?
He gave a ball don't lie to his own head coach. We will see you in 2026.
Oh, Cam, I hope they don't break you. No one's breaking Cam. He'll be fine. That's the great part about Cam. All right, let's move on to Bucks at Saints. Bucks win 23-3. They cover as 4.5-point favorites on the road. 46.5 points was the over-under, one of the rare unders this week. My number. And I was watching this game, and I was like, I think Antoine Winfield has ran across the goal line 3 times with the football in his hands, and with the play like potentially being live all 3 times. Like if a call or the ref had overturned one thing one way or the other, all 3 could have been counted as touchdowns. None of them were. So I think this has to be an NFL record. I can't fact check this any way, shape, or form. But 3 is my number, and it's the times Antoine Winfield crossed the goal line to have none of them actually end up as touchdowns. But he did have such a sick interception in this game. The fact that he even had the ball 3 times in his hands, crossing the goal line, obviously none of them counting, is just so indicative of who Antoine Winfield is.
He's just always around the ball. And I think there was a play early in this game. This was the Anthony Nelson game, by the way, which was insane. Like, just genuinely.
Been waiting 8 years for the Anthony Nelson game.
Like, I put out a meme of like the flex tape where like he's putting the tape on like the hole on the cylinder with water coming out, and it's Todd Bowles and the Bucks' underlying issues with not getting pass rush, bad second level coverage. Just put some Anthony Nelson on it.
Anthony Nelson.
And that's all you need. The pick 6 was nasty. The pick 6 was really cool. He jumped up, tips the pass, catches it, stiff arm spins the Rattler, and walks into the end zone, which I thought was kind of badass.
Okay.
And then on the next drive, when the Bucks have to punt, he's one of the guys on the punt team that forces a fair catch. He then had a sack. He forced a fumble. He just was everywhere in this game, and it felt sort of indicative of where the Saints are. That like Anthony Nelson is gaming, y'all. Like it's tough. But I do think I want to give credit to Todd Bowles and what he's done with this defense and what he's done with this team overall, still keeping them afloat despite having all the injuries, missing all the guys. Baker Mayfield clearly was not healthy in this game. He had another really poor game. So the fact you're getting 20-point victories, of course it's the Saints, but you're getting 20-point victories without your quarterback playing well. When we see the state of quarterback play with backups around the league, I think it's a testament to how good Todd Bowles has been this year.
Yeah, the Bucs only 212 yards of total offense in this game. After 251 yards last week, they've looked bad, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Baker just doesn't look healthy. The offense was a mess. He missed a lot of throws in this game. They get the one Sean Tucker touchdown, and then they have to get 3 50-plus yard field goals. So the only other scores offensively for the Bucs in this one. So it's been tough there. Obviously, they're playing with both hands behind their back. You don't have Bucky Irving. You don't have your receivers. You don't have the right side of your offensive line. We get that it's difficult. I do think, though, the Bucky Irving one's the one that hurts the most when you watch them, just because Rashad White pains me to watch him. It's just his run pacing, his decisiveness. It's just not there. He's not a good short yardage back, despite being like the guy who looks like he should be a good short yardage back. And then Sean Tucker is basically just a glorified battering ram. The guy does not have a vision cone that expands, and he is not the most laterally gifted athlete, but in a straight line, that boy can roll. So they need what Bucky brings to the table to keep this offense just on schedule in a way that it hasn't been with him gone.
Yeah, and I think this was also combined with the worst Tristan Wirfs game we've gotten since he moved to left tackle.
Yeah, Chase Young kind of got him.
Chase Young got him a couple times. There was a Baker strip sack that Chase Young just kind of beat Wirfs around the edge. He got him for a holding. There were a couple penalties. There was sort of that kind of day for the Bucs offense, but again, being able to turn that into a 20-point win, it's a testament to how well coached they are and how well they played on defense, because that's not something you really see.
Tyler Shuck, I didn't get to watch too in depth. I just watched the TV copy. I'll have more thoughts probably on Tuesday, but I didn't think he looked awful, but it wasn't anything to write home about either, I'll say, from what I saw.
Yeah, he did Tyler Shuck stuff. When it's clean, when he's able to get the ball out, he knows where to go with the ball. But again, under pressure, it's an immediate sack. Like he's not going to create. Like it's almost as bad as that Aaron Rodgers grounding or fumble that wasn't a fumble.
Oh man, the spike.
It's so bad. Let's fix the sport. Fix the sport. That shouldn't be allowed to be an incomplete pass.
Dude, when we're going to flag guys who throw a go ball when the receiver runs a hitch and it's miscommunication, and we throw flags for that, or a guy who's getting hit and he's trying to throw it to someone past the line of scrimmage but can't get enough on it, so it doesn't go far enough, and so we call it. We're going to allow Aaron Rodgers to put the ball directly into the dirt, only because his running back's pass blocking a foot in front of him. That's cool though. There's a guy in the area. The intent though, all right. We all know it's just patently absurd. NFL, do something about it. All right. Bills at Panthers. Bills just cook the Panthers pants 40-9, 7.5-point favorites. They cover that, obviously. Over hits there was 46.5. What's your number?
So remember in the preview for this game, we said hey, the Panthers run defense actually been pretty good. Might give the Bills a game here. Yeah, none of that happened. My number was 7.95, which is how many yards James Cook had per carry before contact.
They were just parting. It looked like someone was tearing a hole through the middle of their defense every single play. They would just run a mid-zone pitch, and it was just the Red Sea parting. It was like Moses just saying, it was crazy. Where was the defense we saw the last 6 weeks of the season?
It looked like when you're playing college football 26 and you have Akron and you're playing against Georgia. And Georgia's just running you over. It was insane. It was all duo, power, and counter. And this is what the Bills can do when they lean on their strength, which is the run game and that offensive line. They added Reggie Gilliam onto the field. Both James Cook's touchdowns were Reggie Gilliam on the field. More fullbacks, baby. Get the big man on the field. I actually thought this was another kind of rough Josh Allen game. He just seems like he has the zoomies. He's a little skittish now. And it makes sense because of the passing game, but he's taking a lot of sacks that he normally wouldn't. There was one really bad one where they tried to sneak it on 3rd and 1. It gets called for a false start, and then he takes a 12-yard sack on 3rd and 6, which is very not Josh Allen, or not current Josh Allen. That feels like real early Josh Allen. So it feels hey man, what are we doing here? But it ultimately didn't matter because they got 7.95 yards per carry before contact. Another just more run game stats. 216 rushing yards is the most by a Bills running back since OJ Simpson. 153 rushing yards in the first half is the most for any running back in the NFL since Dalvin Cook, which I think was a pretty cool stat for James Cook. And they had 141 yards before contact, which is the most of any running back this season. It truly the most you got to stop the run. And they just got ran over in this game.
Yeah, dude, 11.4 per carry for James Cook. That was gross. That was a gross performance. This Panthers team, they're now 4-4. They feel like a 2-6 team, though. I mean, they just don't feel like a 4-4 football team. Andy Dalton, though, I made the mistake of saying that he probably wouldn't be worse than Bryce Young. Somehow he was incredibly worse than Bryce Young. He took 7 sacks, fumbled twice, lost both fumbles, threw a pick as well. Yeah, it was just, there was nothing good to write home about. The only weird thing, though, Chuba Hubbard out carrying Rico Dowdle. I get that he's getting paid more, but Rico's kind of been just cooking. Like you can't pass it back to Chuba now that he's back. You just got to keep riding with Rico, right?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Chuba isn't really fully back. Like he's there. He's in pads, but it doesn't look like he has the juice right now. And you got to give it to the guy with juice, especially in this offense, especially with the way that the quarterback situation is played out. You got to give it to the guy with juice to get you explosives. So I think they should start leaning on Rico Dowdle a little bit more, at least until Chuba's 100%, because you don't want to rush Chuba back if he's not 100. You have the ability just to let Rico play. If
it ain't broke, don't fix it. Rico goes for 54 yards on 8 carries at 6.8 per. Chuba 34 on 12. That's 2.8 per. Just he's more effective. I mean, the running game has been nice with him there. I would not change a damn thing. Last game before we get out here and get to Monday Night Football. Miami Dolphins at Atlanta Falcons. Miami, we trashed them on the preview, and they went out and just thrashed the Falcons. Win by 24 points. They were 7.5-point dogs, but that was before Michael Penix Jr. didn't become the starter. So my number for this one, 4 of 12. That was Kirk Cousins on 10-plus yards down the field. Somehow his arm didn't magically get back. Crazy that it didn't. Yeah, it was just bad, no good, ugly for this Atlanta Falcons team. Tua silenced all the haters. He goes 20 of 26, 205 yards, 4 touchdown passes in this game. Kirk went 21 of 31, 173 yards. Falcons couldn't even run the ball. Bijan, 25 yards on 9 carries. No Drake London here either. So it was just kind of a doomed day from the start here for Atlanta.
I gotta say, throwing for less than 200 yards on 31 passing attempts is kind of impressive. It's impressive ways of just parking the bus in ways that I cannot fathom. In this game, I know like people are like, oh, Tua played really well. The Falcons didn't have Divine Diablo, Jalen Walker, Billy Bowman, or Zach Harrison in this game. So that's like 4 of your like immediate like best contributor players on defense. And like we said, didn't have Penix, didn't have Drake London. I never want to see Kirk Cousins again. I really don't want to see Kirk Cousins this year.
Well, I could have said that like halfway through last year. At the same point last year, that's exactly how I felt also.
Yeah, like it's looking kind of over. It's looking mega over for Kirk Cousins. It's awful. And the fact that he can't push the ball downfield, that's really that's what hampered the offense last year and led to them starting Michael Penix. So, I mean, what did we kind of expect from this Falcons offense with Cousins playing?
So let me pose this to you. Falcons, they're now 3-4. Say we get another Terry Fontenot special, a 7-10 season. Who's getting fired for the Atlanta Falcons? Or does anyone?
I think it's got to be Terry. And it sort of sucks because you don't want to go in the cycle of fire GM, hire new GM, fire head coach, hire new head coach.
Yes.
Like if you're gonna fire somebody, make it clean slate. But Terry Fontenot, I struggle because the defense has played well, but that's largely due to coaching. Like Jeff Ulbrich has coached them really well, and you had a good draft. But if they can't turn this around, I sort of do struggle how Terry Fontenot keeps this job. But I also could see them kind of going like, hey, man, like Raheem Morris might not be might not be it for us. So I could see it both ways with just both guys leaving, but part of me feels like even if they go 7-10, they're going to run it back, because I think in this scenario, it's like Michael Penix didn't play. We're missing all these guys defensively. Let's run it back and see what happens.
So he took over 2021. He's gone 7-10, 7-10, 7-10, 8-9. And then obviously this year, the 3-4. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if Zach Robinson could also be a fall guy here. If the offense still sputters, they're obviously, I think, bottom 5 in terms of points per game so far this season. It just does not feel like this team's going to really figure it out, though. I mean, even when everything gets back healthy, they'll win some games, but it doesn't feel like they are going to be a team that gets to the level where we feel good about necessarily the direction. It'll feel like there's interesting pieces, there's interesting players here, we have something, but how do we get over the hump? And I don't think they get over the hump this year.
Yeah, it feels like 2026 is the make or break year.
Yes. All right, there you have it. The Week 8 slate. I think if Monday Night Football is decided by over 30 points, we could have the highest average margin of victory of any week all time in the NFL. It's obviously a big ask, but it's backup quarterback for the Commanders. We've now had 9 backup quarterbacks see time this season. Kind of unbelievable, but hey, that's why we love this stupid game. So glad you guys could tune in. We'll be back on Tuesday. Until next time, keep pushing.